Sometimes, love doesn't come from romance. Sometimes, it comes from responsibility. This is a story about a brother who never expected to become a parent. And a sister who never expected forgiveness to come from the person she least understood. A story about family, healing, and the kind of love that changes you forever. Stay till the end, because this story will touch a part of your heart you didn't know existed. I still remember the smell of burnt coffee that morning, bitter, just like my mood. It had been years since my sister, Arden, left for London to chase her dreams in art and design. Meanwhile, Kaylin, was still here in Boston, stacking shelves at a retail store, pretending life made sense. We used to be close, inseparable even. When our parents died, it was me and her against the world. But over time, calls became messages, and messages became silence. It's funny how distance doesn't just stretch across oceans, it stretches across hearts too. That morning, I was late for work again. The rain hadn't stopped, my shoes were soaked, and my manager's face had that "one more mistake and you're done" expression. Life was painfully ordinary until my phone rang. It was Arden. The name lit up my screen like an old memory. I hesitated before picking up. Her voice trembled, softer than I remembered. "Kaylin, can I come home for a while?" Something in her tone was off, it wasn't just homesickness. I could hear the quiver in her breathing. Before I could even ask why, she whispered, "I need you, Kaylin. Please." A week later, I stood by the train station, watching her step off. But she wasn't alone. In her arms was a tiny bundle wrapped in a faded blue blanket. A baby. My breath caught. She looked tired, not the kind of tired that sleep could fix, but the kind that comes from being alone too long. "His name's Leor," she said softly. I didn't know who else to turn to. I stared at her, unsure if I should be angry or concerned. The last time we spoke, she had laughed about freedom, about living life without limits. Now she was holding a baby, eyes hollow and shoulders trembling. "Where's the father?" I asked carefully. She looked away, tears forming instantly. "It's complicated." That's all she said. And that was all I needed to know, because for the first time in years, I saw my sister not as the confident, unstoppable woman she pretended to be, but as someone breaking. That night, the house felt strange. A baby's cry echoed through the quiet halls that used to be filled with our parents' laughter. Arden sat on the edge of the couch, rocking Leor, her hands shaking. I made her tea. She barely sipped it. "I have to go back to London," she finally whispered, eyes downcast. "There's a chance, a scholarship. If I don't finish my program, I lose everything I've worked for." My chest tightened. "You just got here." She nodded, guilty but determined. "I know. But I'll come back. I need your help until then." I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell her I wasn't built for this, that I barely knew how to take care of myself, let alone a child. But then I looked at the baby. Tiny hands, barely the size of my fingers, resting peacefully against her chest. Something inside me, something quiet and buried, shifted. "Okay," I said. "I'll help." She smiled for the first time that night, a small, broken smile that almost made me forgive her. As she left 2 days later, the air in the house changed again. Her absence was replaced by the soft, uncertain sounds of baby Leor. And me, a man who never planned to be a father, stood in the doorway, holding a bottle awkwardly, whispering to myself. What the hell am I doing? I didn't know it then. But that question was the beginning of something I'd never expected, the slow, gentle rebirth of love. The first night alone with Lior was worse than I imagined. The baby's cries cut through the quiet like a knife. I fumbled with blankets, bottles, and pacifiers, feeling like every move I made was wrong. I remember pacing the living room at 2:47 a.m., whispering, "Shh, it's okay, buddy. I got you." I never thought I'd be saying those words to someone who wasn't my own. But there I was, and oddly, it felt necessary. By 3 a.m., Arden's words echoed in my head, "You didn't babysit, you mothered." I shook my head. That couldn't apply to me. I wasn't a mother. I wasn't ready. I was just a guy who had no idea what he was doing. But then, something miraculous happened. Lior stopped crying. His tiny hands reached for mine. His eyes, bright, curious, innocent, locked with mine. And for the first time, I smiled back. Days turned into weeks. I learned the rhythms of this tiny life, the late-night feedings, the diaper blowouts, the endless lullabies. I cooked Arden's favorite breakfast at 3 a.m. while rocking Lior in my arms. I sang songs I hadn't sung since childhood. I started to notice the little things, how Lior's laugh could fill the empty corners of our home, how a small smile could make a terrible day seem manageable. Work became secondary. Friends called less. I didn't mind. I had a purpose now, a fragile, beautiful purpose. One night, while burping Lior against my shoulder, I caught my reflection in the mirror. I looked older. Tired. But something in my eyes had changed. Pride. Patience. Love. I didn't know I could feel this way. Arden called from London, her voice buzzing through the phone. "How's he doing?" she asked, the edge of guilt in her tone. I laughed softly. "He's perfect." Messy, loud, but perfect. There was silence on the line. Then, softly, she said, "I knew I could trust you. I just didn't know this would happen." I knew what she meant. I was changing, not in ways I had planned. Responsibility had turned into love. And it scared me more than anything. One evening, as I watched Lior sleep in the crook of my arm, Arden's words returned, not her voice, but her sentiment, "You didn't babysit, you mothered." I understood now. This wasn't about chores. It wasn't about duty. It was about connection. About stepping into a role I never asked for, but one that became my heart. I realized then that Arden's absence wasn't a loss. It was an opportunity, a chance to forge a bond neither of us could have imagined. A bond between brother and niece, and between siblings who had drifted too far apart. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. But life isn't simple. Responsibilities are heavy. And love can be terrifying when it arrives unexpectedly. The next morning, I found myself whispering to Lior, "We're going to be okay. Me and you, buddy. I promise." Little did I know, the real challenge was just around the corner, when Arden would return, and we'd all have to face the transformation we didn't expect. The day Arden returned from London, the house felt different. The walls no longer echoed only with uncertainty, they were alive with laughter, coos, and tiny footsteps. I opened the door when she arrived, and for a moment, I barely recognized her. She looked tired, yes, but her eyes shone in a way they hadn't before. And then Lior, sensing her presence, wiggled excitedly in my arms, reaching for her. "You've done this," she whispered, almost in awe, her hands trembling as she touched her baby's cheek. I shrugged, embarrassed. "I didn't do it alone. Lior, he makes it easy." She smiled, a real smile this time. Tears formed in her eyes as she hugged both of us. I don't know how to thank you," Arden said softly, pulling me aside. "You didn't babysit, Kaylin. You mothered him. You gave him love when I couldn't. And you changed." I swallowed hard, trying to keep the lump in my throat from surfacing. "I just wanted him to feel safe. That's all," I admitted. Arden nodded, understanding more than words could express. For a long time, we stood there, two siblings reunited, both aware of the distance we'd once let grow, but also of the bond that now couldn't be broken. The next few days were filled with small, beautiful moments. We watched Lior take his first steps. We cooked together late at night, laughter spilling over breakfast pancakes. We shared stories of our childhood that we had almost forgotten, realizing how much we had missed. And I realized that responsibility had not been a burden, it had been a bridge, connecting hearts that had drifted apart. One evening, as Arden tucked Lior into bed, she turned to me. "Kaylin," she said, voice soft, "I was afraid of leaving him behind, of leaving you behind too. But you've become part of him in a way I can never forget. And part of me, too." I felt a warmth that I hadn't known in years. Love had arrived quietly, unexpectedly, through diapers, sleepless nights, and whispered lullabies. It wasn't about obligation, it was about connection, sacrifice, and the kind of love that doesn't ask for recognition. Weeks later, as Arden prepared to return to London to finish her program, the bond between us had transformed completely. "I'll be back soon," she promised, holding both Lior's and my hands. "You made this possible. You gave him love when I couldn't. And you gave me peace I didn't know I needed." I nodded, feeling proud in a way I hadn't thought I could feel. "You're his mother," I said quietly. "I just helped. That's all I did." But deep down, I knew it was more than that. I had discovered a new part of myself, a part that could love fiercely, even when life demanded it unexpectedly. And Arden, she had learned to trust, to forgive, and to see that love often grows in the most surprising roles. Sometimes, love doesn't come the way we imagine. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, through responsibility, sacrifice, and the bonds we never expected to form. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to support more emotional family stories like this. Share your own experiences in the comments below, maybe you've had a responsibility turn into love too. And share this with someone who needs a reminder that even the hardest challenges can bring the deepest connections. Because in the end, love finds a way, even through the roles we never thought we could play.